Roll Tide, everybody. Alabama had their third big recruiting weekend so far this summer, this past weekend. And what we're hearing is that it went well for Alabama in the 10 recruits that showed up, and that the Crimson Tide could be adding to their class really soon and some big-time prospects. But a lot of five-star Alabama guys in Tuscaloosa. We're going to get into that and more right here on the Bama Tailgate Show. So like, subscribe, thumbs up, and roll tide, everybody. It's always great to see you. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort over there in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Azaleas, the Oaks, two amazing golf courses that you can play, and you don't need a membership. And it's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, right there on campus, 2 hours and change from Birmingham. All right, let's roll. Let's get this show started. I know you're ready. I'm ready. Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Mick Gillespie, and it is great to see you guys today, or at least talk to you. You see me, I see you. Comment section, get in there and stroke it up. And let's talk about the third recruiting weekend in Tuscaloosa. This is where Kalen DeBoer always does well because he gets in front of recruits, and he's a likable, honest, down-to-earth, genuine guy, and he's going to win over these guys to come to Tuscaloosa. A lot of this now is as much of about the NIL money as anything. You know, you wonder how that's going to change with the new, $20 million plus agreement that, schools are allowed to spend, how much money's going to football. We're still ironing all that out. But I can tell you, to win a championship, you've still got to win on signing day, and Alabama is going to try to do that, and they've done that. And they're picked as one of the best teams going into the season. You look at the recruits that Kalen and his guys got last year, and they're doing well there. All right, I want to target some of these guys that were in Tuscaloosa and tell you why I think they're important. And this was the first one right here, as this Xavier Crowell, the now a five-star running back out of Jackson. This is a guy that Alabama's got to get. Now, you know that he changed from being a junior to a senior so that he could play college football in the 26 class, right? He did the same thing that Ryan Williams did. And he is sought after by everyone, right? But he's got his official visits down to and going to see or have seen Georgia, Texas, Auburn, and Alabama. And I think it really is going to come down to Auburn and Alabama. I think he's going to stay in state. They're not going to let him go. And both of the schools really want him. Now, they're saying that he's trending to Tuscaloosa, and and kind of some of the scuttlebutt that you're reading, and it's kind of coming from all over the place. But I always look to my man Andrew Bone at On3, but wherever you get it from, they're saying that the other schools feel like Alabama is the team to beat. He's going to make his decision public on June 26th. These are the guys that you have to get at Alabama. You cannot let the five-star running back or the five-star edge guy out of St. Paul's down here in lower Alabama over in Mobile, Tank Jones, you can't let him go. You got to win those battles. And Auburn knows it. And they know to win the Iron Bowl again, which they haven't done in a while, right? And you guys know what I'm talking about. They started the fear of the thumb. But for them to get back into winning the Iron Bowl, which they could do this year, look, I'm not saying that there haven't been some tough games, but I'll take 5 in a row over them any day. You got to get the in-state guys. And this is a guy that brings so much to the table. He is an elite running back. He'd fit in so well in Tuscaloosa. He can catch the ball. He can obviously, make guys miss. He's got great speed, elusiveness, all that stuff. This is a guy you want to get. And it feels like Alabama is trending in the right direction. That's what you're hearing, and you kind of get that vibe. He's been to Tuscaloosa so many times. So Crowell, keep an eye on him. But things just seem to connect with this one guy. So you look at the top 10 prospects in the state, and then you look at the top 5 prospects in the state, the elite guys. I would probably say that Crowell makes you feel the most comfortable just because he's been coming to Tuscaloosa since Saban, then got to know DeBoer. It hasn't changed at all. You grew up loving Alabama. You were in the state of Alabama. I sat there and watched the podcast with Ryan Williams and Jalen Mbakwe and Dre Jr. And it was like, hey, you know what? They were all really proud about being from the state of Alabama, sitting there talking to Jake Coker and Ryan Anderson about the pride that you have when you grow up in the state to play there. That doesn't mean that you couldn't come from other places, but it just means that you still want to have the core of guys that get it. All right, here's another guy who I think Alabama has a good chance at, and another 5-star guy. And you're talking about Brandon Arrington. Now, what's interesting about Arrington is that he's a 5-star cornerback. And you look at the secondary and the amount of great players that Alabama has recruited in the secondary. The offensive line and the secondary have just been killer for Alabama as far as the recruiting services are concerned. Now, you got to go out there and perform, right? But they've done such an excellent job of getting these guys to commit. And you look at what Bama's done over the last few years with the way that they lost all of those guys. They went marching right out of Tuscaloosa when Nick Saban retired, and they fired they followed old T-Rob out of town, and it looked like it was going to be terrible. And then Bama went out there and pieced it together. And then now there's elite guys at a lot of those spots, right? So here's another one. Great relationship with Alabama. He's been on campus a ton. And it's to the point where he's just gotten to know Courtney Morgan so well, knows him from his previous stops as well, Bama's GM of recruiting. And when you look at what Alabama has been able to do, he's from Mount Miguel, Spring Valley, California. And Bama has just, because these guys have grown up knowing Courtney Morgan and Kalen DeBoer, and their families know them, and they know what they represent and who they are. These guys are picking Alabama, and you see that. Dijon Lee. I mean, just look at the list of the over the last couple of years, how many blue chip stars have come from California. Arrington could be the next guy. We'll find out. He's got other visits coming up. Loves Tuscaloosa. Oregon's going after him. USC's going after him. Bama Online saying that if the Texas A&M is going to try to buy him, they may just give him so much money he doesn't come to Alabama. I wonder how much that is, and kind of what that looks like, because my vibe is that you're going to go somewhere where you feel comfortable. You're going to go somewhere where you feel like you're going to be around guys that you can trust. And Bama has just stacked up in the Golden State, and I feel like he's going to be another one of those guys. But then talking about 5-stars, Xavier Griffin was in town. We've talked about him here. We talked about him on Cover Crimson. His mom played hoops for the Tide. He grew up an Alabama fan. He lives in Gainesville, Georgia. And it's Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, right? Can they get this guy to come to Alabama? He was supposedly going to USC and backed out of that. Christian Robinson's been working hard. Kane Womack wants him as well. And you're talking about a 6'3", 205-pound linebacker that does it all. Right. And another 5-star. But this is kind of the same thing as Crowell, where it's like, hey, you grew up an Alabama fan. Mom even played basketball in Tuscaloosa. Can you imagine like being able to be a legacy? How cool that would be. But it might come down to money too. And that's a part of this right now. Until they figure out how to regulate it. Like there's really no, somebody could just come in and pay more. I still think that this is a guy to keep an eye on. And it would be such an easy, great fit for Alabama. He was in Tuscaloosa, had an awesome visit. And, when you look around, you're like, man, can we figure out a way to, to get this guy? Georgia, taking him right out of Georgia's backyard. You love that, right? And you wouldn't have to change any of your gear, man. I've had that Bama gear since mom. I'm going to keep it going. Watching all those Tide games. Now you're on the sideline. But the other thing, too, with some of these guys is just because you don't get them now doesn't mean that you may not get them down the road. And I think that's what we got to kind of look at as well when it comes to some of the with the transfer portal. I mean, you may lose some of these guys and then they come back and they go somewhere else and realize, man, I should have played at Bama the whole time, and you're seeing that with the transfer portal. I'm not saying that's where we are yet, but I'm just saying, like, with a lot of these guys that grew up Alabama fans, if you don't get them initially, maybe you just stay in contact and you're always there. Now, the fourth guy I want to talk about is Nick Abrams. I think Bama would love to have this guy. He was in Tuscaloosa. He's a guy from the state of Maryland and an exciting player. He's fit in so well in Tuscaloosa. And we've had guys from Maryland that have come down the pike here. And you're talking about another Bama-Georgia battle. Michigan's going to try to come in there and buy him away. Is he going to go all the way out to Oregon? I don't know. But a super talented guy where in a position linebacker, you're going to need somebody like him, 6'2", 220, 4-star. Who knows? Maybe he ends up a 5-star. Bama clearly in the mix with those teams for his services. And he goes to McDonough and Owings Mills, Maryland. That's where he's from. I grew up there. I love it when I see these guys who come basically from where I grew up and come down to Tuscaloosa like I did and fall in love with Alabama. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. Now, when you look through the entire list, some really, really super players that are, they're still lined up to come. And another guy, Satarian Morgan, is a wide receiver I'm keeping an eye on. He's coming up in July 2nd and then July 5th. Jair Edwards, the safety, is going to be in Tuscaloosa. He's another guy from Maryland, and he's a 5-star, and I think Alabama's going to get him. So it's just fun just to kind of see, like, how this whole thing shakes out. And what Bama's going to be able to pull off. But what we can tell you right now is with the guys that have committed, it's a small class, super elite. And just keep building on that. All right, look, Shank will be on a couple of times this week. I'll pop in. Show's brought to you by a couple of really amazing partners. And it starts with New Life Art. It's that time of year right now where birthdays are coming up. You're getting your apartment ready for football season, and you're saying to yourself, how can I make my apartment look a little bit better? How can I pimp out my man cave? And I'm going to tell you how to do it right here. NewLifeArt.com, promo code Bama Tailgate. Use that promo code, 20% off everything they got right now, except the new stuff, which is the print, the buzzer beater print of Mark Sears beating Auburn, which was a glorious moment, by the way. But newlifeart.com, Bama Tailgate, take advantage of it, 20% off. And then finally, we're presented by Pearl River Resort. Spent time with Chief Cyrus Ben. We got an interview with him. We're going to post on here sometime soon. Our entire group of folks were at the Delta Blues golf tournament put on by Steve Azar, the country singer. Got an interview with him, too, that I'm going to put on here. Great guy. What a fantastic time this weekend. And so ran into some of you guys out there as well. So anyway, Pearl River Resort, though, Philadelphia, Mississippi, hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 hours and change from Birmingham. You got the Timeout Sports Lounge, which is a Vegas-style sports book. And that sports book is fantastic. 20 big screen TVs, full-size bar. They've got all the games on. You can wager on all those just like out in Vegas. And throughout the summer, you got baseball, college and pro. You got the pro finals in basketball. Hockey's going on right now. But they even have stuff overseas. So It's a lot of fun. Table games and slots at Golden Moon and Silver Star Casino. Best slot game that's out there. Geyser Falls, the water park. You got all the concerts that are going to be there. Jim Dunham, the comedian, is going to be there. How funny is that? Or Jeff Dunham. He's got the guy with all the puppets. Yeah, tickets are sold out. But he's going to be there. The other great stuff, too. You got to jump on those quick. Anyway, thanks for hanging, guys. We will, like I said, I think Shank's going to jump on tomorrow, so we'll have him. We appreciate all of you guys, though, for being part of what we do here every day. And roll tide.